Hello, everybody, and welcome into today's episode of the Top Cut Yu-Gi-Oh! Podcast. I am Sonny. I am here hosting with Caleb. Say hi to the people, Caleb.
Hello, everybody's.
And, of course, today we have yet another special guest, as I'm sure you have guessed by the episode title. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. My name is GiantSkyHawk. Happy to be here.
I love that name. It's such a wonderful name. GiantSkyHawk. It's unique.
Yeah,
How
nobody
long
else
did it
has
take your
it.
parents to pick that out? How long did it take your parents to pick that out?
I picked it out, actually. It was the name of my middle school basketball team, and I was the tallest one. So I became the GiantSkyHawk.
Ah.
I mean, it's better than being the tiniest Skyhawk.
I guess so.
Especially on a basketball team.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out. We had a tall team, and I happened to be the biggest one, so I became the giant.
So, let me ask you this. You said this was middle school. Did everybody else catch up to you, or are you still the tallest one?
I'm still pretty tall. I'm around 6'5".
Okay, you are definitely the tallest person in your group.
Most of the time, yeah.
That's really tall.
When you spend time around basketball players, sometimes I end up about average, but most of the time I'm on the high end.
So I guess my last question before we get into everything is, with your name being Giant Skyhawk and you having the wingspan of a 6'5" man, can you actually fly, or is that just...
I like to fly with the deck building, but I cannot fly in real life. I'm very sorry to disappoint.
It's okay.
Man.
We'll let you use those fluffle wings later on. So, we want to get into some quick play news here. The main thing to talk about, it's really the only main piece of quick play news, is the return of formal play in the United Kingdom. Now, there has been some announcements that there will be some formal play returning in the EU as a whole, but it's basically on a country-by-country basis. And with the EU being opened back up mostly now, whereas there's other countries that are still pretty tightly locked down, I do not have a list in front of me, but you know the rules where you live. So, I know, for example, me and Caleb are in the United States, specifically the southern United States. So, we've been full go here for a while. Whereas Skyhawk over here, you're in Canada, where everything's still locked down, right?
Yeah, it's kind of place to place. I live in the Texas of Canada. I live in Alberta, and currently, we have no public health restrictions, at least provincially speaking. So it's basically place to place. For the record, I think that's a mistake. But my guess is they're waiting another month or so because for a little while, vaccination rates here in Canada were a bit slower compared to the US. So my guess is we'll probably get it back on August 15th rather than the July 15th that the US got. I actually agree with Konami on this, that we should wait just like a little bit longer, but I think we're getting pretty close.
I think the crazy part to me is that you say that you're in the Texas of Canada. I'll one up you on that, buddy. We are in Texas. We're at Texas's Cajun cousin. We're the one that shows up to the family reunion, and Texas is like, "Ooh, they're crazy. They're here."
Listen, I have eaten alligator before. It's delicious.
It really is, honestly.
That's new. That's a new one for me.
It's like a fair food here.
Yeah,
it's like a big deal at fairs.
Yeah. Like they just like take some alligator meat, stick it on a stick, and then deep fry it.
Yeah, they literally do skewered alligator on a stick. Alligator on a stick's a big deal here.
Yeah, I went to a Ren Fair and they call it dragon on a lance.
Certainly a far cry from the Calgary Stampede, but I mean, you guys do you.
I do not know what you're talking about.
It's kind of a clown show. It's a big giant rodeo is basically what it is that happens every year.
Oh, that's every week here. Here they put church in it. It's called Cowboy Church.
I think
The funniest part is he's only half joking.
I'm not joking at all. The Cowboy Church is not far from here. You know that, right?
Yes, I know.
God.
Okay.
You've combined my two.
They do a rodeo at their church service. I'm not joking.
You've combined my two least favorite things, and it's hilarious.
I mean,
listen, man. I could walk outside, huck a rock, and probably hit a church.
Yeah, we literally have. Okay.
That's true.
You know
That's
what?
true.
Listen, Politics, religion, and money are the things we don't talk about here, but we live in the Bible Belt. Let's just say that.
Yeah. No, I gotcha.
We live under the Bible Belt.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're behind the Bible Belt buckle. Like,
comes with the territory.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with this announcement of the return to formal play in the United Kingdom comes a few things. We have new playmats, new mouse pads, and new field centers. These all bear Trishula. They're very nice looking.
Ooh, mouse pads.
Yes, good luck getting one.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll read out the formal letter really quick. It's, if my voice will let me. I'm kind of losing my voice because of allergies, but I will do our best. Good afternoon, all. We are pleased to announce the formal return of sanctioned play in the OTS program. Please read this carefully and fully. Please note, instructions from your local authority will always supersede these rules. Government advice and guidance may change, and if this occurs, we will keep you informed and up to date. Makes a lot of sense. Since April 2020, we have continuously monitored developments related to the COVID-19 pandemic. We have closely evaluated and heeded the recommendations of government health authorities and experts. We take seriously our role in contributing to the overall health and safety of our colleagues, OTS store owners and staff, and the entire Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG fanbase. Jointly, we share a responsibility to prevent community spread of this virus by practicing social distancing, and we appreciate everyone's cooperation during this time of uncertainty. We are formally confirming the return of in-store sanctioned events from Monday, July 19th. For those wondering, that is, this episode will air on Friday, July 16th. So this is the following Monday. It is vital that you check the latest updates from your local authority for guidelines and limitations in place. For example, in England, there will be no limitations on indoor gatherings. Wow. Whereas in Scotland, there is an indoor gathering limit of 10 persons from no more than 4 households. We require that all safety measures are in place as a required minimum in order to host events. Any additional measures to ensure safety are at your discretion and will be supported by us. Failure to comply with government guidelines may result in the immediate removal from the OTS program of the OTS in question. In further news, we are thrilled to announce the return of the Back to Duel leagues. Starting with Season 1, Month 1, OTSs may host leagues on a monthly basis starting from August 1st. We hope this information is well received and it is a positive step in the right direction to safely host in-store events again. We look forward to offering you more and more events and rewards in the near future. We are aware that the rules in England will not enforce mask wearing indoors. However, the government advice is for businesses to make their own decisions on mask wearing, and the WHO are recommending the continued use of masks indoors for the foreseeable future. If you decide for the safety of your community to continue wearing masks in play spaces, we recommend informing your community early and often. I don't think there's really, honestly, a ton to talk about this here. It's sweet that real life play is opening back up, in my opinion. I'm all for opening it back up. That could be because, once again, we're in the Bible Belt, and I have seen everything being opened back up for a while now. That said, it is still very critical and very important that we all do our part in stopping the spread of this virus by wearing our mask when we're in those closed spaces, especially card shops packed with lots of people. Be sure to wash your hands thoroughly or often. Be sure to use hand sanitizer. Be sure to maybe offer your opponent, say, hey, would you like to go ahead and cut your deck? I can watch you just cut half. Something like that. Be polite. Be courteous. Wear your mask, especially when you're indoors. And just be safe. You know, that's the most important thing because it's not your own safety, but it's the safety of others around you.
Yeah, completely agree. So, and to that point, if you, like me and like everyone else, has been really excited to get back to in-person play, the best way to keep it so that we can continue doing in-person play, if your area is a place where COVID has regressed far enough, is to do this stuff. Because if you don't do this stuff, that's when it can start to... we can get back to the back and forth that we had really early in all of this. So keep doing this stuff for a little while longer. We're getting close. But so if you're in a place where you can do in person, be responsible so that the rest of us can come join you as soon as we can.
Also, please get vaccinated if you are able to do so.
Yes.
That's vaccination, wear a mask, hand sanitizer. You're good.
Yeah, it makes a difference. So every little bit that each one of us does helps this community in huge ways. So please be sure to do your part to help this community return to organized play. We all want to go to in-person YCSs. We all want to go to in-person regionals. We ask that you do your part to help us get there. So with that, we are going to move on into some card, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Card reveals?
Yeah, card reveals works.
All right. So the first card that we are going to talk about, Caleb's going to talk about because I had it pulled up and I accidentally exited out of it.
Which card do you want to start with? Outburst?
Sure.
All right, so we now know what the new Outburst Dragon does. And of course, the ex-Dragon Link players will talk about it. Let's see, we got a level 8 Dark Dragon, 2100 attack, 2100 defense. All of its effects are hard once per turn. If you control a monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, then destroy all of the monsters you control. You cannot special summon monsters while you control this monster, summon this way, except dark monsters. 2. During your opponent's turn, you can quick effect. Immediately after this effect resolves, link summon a Dragon Link monster you control using this card you control.
It's nifty.
It's nifty.
It is very cool. I've seen people
it.
talk about using this in Unchained. Because
I could see it.
The first effect is
Oh.
interesting. I don't know if it is good, but it has some interesting applications there. And it gives it a little bit more, oomph. So,
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. And the
It's
second
interesting and Unchained.
The second effect is like a quick summon of the in like more minimal decks playing a more minimal dragon engine. Like I think there's use for this, but it's yet the combo theorists have to do a bit more work, I think, to make this playable.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know about its playability in Dragon Link specifically, but yeah, in Unchained it actually I guess would be pretty good.
Oh yeah. All right, next up we have
Beat Trooper?
Yes, B Trooper Scout Buggy.
Yeah.
That will be the. Yeah, he knows what we're talking about. Let's see, that will actually be our promo.
For the Dawn of Majesty sneak peek.
Oh yeah. Let's see, it's a level 3 wind insect effect monster, 1000 attack, 300 defense. You cannot special summon monsters except insect monsters while this card is facing on the field. If this card is normal special summon one B Trooper Scout Buggy from your hand, deck, or graveyard. You can only use this effect once per turn. It's
potentially amazing.
Yeah, potentially. It's almost a tour guide for insects.
Yeah, the basically, like, we were talking about this in one of the Discords I was in yesterday, and we were like, the payoff must be yet to come, because this card on its face is kind of really good, but right now you can make, like, Inzektor Picophonaria, the link, or you can Xyz summon Digital Bug Restrider. Aside from that, there's not much.
You could also make Giga Brilliant.
Good.
You're not wrong.
Yay.
Yay. Let's see.
I feel like this card, so you mentioned an Inzektor card. I really, truly feel like we don't have an Inzektor card yet, because when they did the creative card, they got to the end, realized Inzektor won, realized that the community chose for that it had to be a spell card, and it was like, okay, we need to make some peripheral cards that really make this deck good before we release the actual card. Because we released one card, and if we release one card and the deck is underwhelming, people are just going to say that the whole thing was for nothing. So
yeah.
We need to release peripherals, make sure people know about these peripherals by doing things of making it a sneak peek promo. And then once all the peripherals are released and people are like, there's something here, we release a broken Inzektor spell card, and all of a sudden it's a playable strategy that people understand where to pull everything from because they just released it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
All
that
I'm
makes
saying,
some sense.
Brothers of Legend is coming very soon.
Yes, it is.
Upcoming 60 card set, and Brothers of Legend is an upcoming 60 card set, I think.
Yeah, supposed to be, I think.
Also, the other interesting thing about the Beat Trooper page is they also did the playmat for the Dawn of Majesty sneak peek. It's a pretty cool looking playmat. If you have a chance, go check out YG Organization, and you can click on the page and see all the information for it.
Oh yeah, it's actually a really nice mat. For the new Majestic Star Dragon retrain or whatever it is.
Okay, so the next thing is the Punk archetype. There's a lot to break down here. We're going to try to move through it kind of quickly. Do you guys want to take turns doing these cards since there's about 10 of them?
Sure.
Sure.
All right, Skyhawk, you go first.
All right, we've got Ukiyo-e Punk, Sharakusai, level 3 Earth Psychic Tuner, 1200 attack, 600 defense. Each
Oh my
effect
god, I'm
hard
glad you
once per
got that
turn.
name because I would have messed that name up so bad.
Yeah.
I have a bit of experience. I took some Japanese in high school. So it works out a bit for
My
me.
high school didn't offer Japanese. What the hell?
Canada, man. Anyway,
Oh my god.
you can pay. First effect is you can pay 600 life points. Fusion summon a punk fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. That's cool. And then during your opponent's turn as a quick effect, you can pay 600 life. Oh, this is cool. So it's kind of keeping the theme with like psychics paying life points to use effects. I like it.
Yep.
Immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon a punk monster. This is really cool. I don't know what the payoff is,
I
but
think it is.
That looks very cool.
I mean, it's a level 3 Earth Psychic Tuner, so I mean, it's an E-Telly target. Oh, you could E-Telly this out on your opponent's turn and then quick effect, activate this effect, and synchro summon if you have other stuff on field already.
Yes, you could.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's see. Next up, we got Gagagaku Punk Wagon. Level 3 Earth Psychic Tuner, 900 attack, 600 defense. Let's see. You can pay 600 life points, add a Punk spell card from deck to hand. When a Punk monster you control is targeted for an attack, or by opponent's card effect, quick effect, draw a card.
Oh,
And all of these are hard ones per turns.
Yeah.
that's kind of spicy.
Ooh, yeah, especially that, hey, if you target it, I draw a card.
Man, why'd y'all leave me with the one I can't print? Okay. The next one is level 3 Earth Psychic Tuner effect monster Joruri?
That's pretty close.
Joruri Punk Madam Spider. You can only hard ones per turn. First effect, you can pay 600 life points, add 1 Punk trap card from your deck to your hand. Second effect, you can when you activate a Punk card or Punk card effect that targets a card your opponent controls. Quick effect, you can target one face-up card or one face-up monster your opponent controls. Have its attack another turn. This card sucks.
Depends on how good the trap card is, but yeah, the other effect isn't that good.
Oh,
sucks.
wait till we wait till we get to the traps. They're pretty good. I read this as soon as it came out.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Skyhawk, it's on you.
I'm up. Okay, so we've got another level 3 Psychic Tuner, Earth. Interesting. No, Punk, Seaman. So it's 800 attack, 600 defense. There's no joke here. I don't know why you're laughing. So the first effect is you can pay 600 life points to add a Punk monster from your deck to your hand, except for no Punk Seaman. And then 2, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 Punk monster you control, gain 600 attack. So this is really interesting.
Mature as an 8th grader.
They can so a lot their main deck, small monsters, search individual different parts of the deck. That's really cool.
Oh yeah. Next up, we have a level 8 light beast monster. No Punk Foxy Toon.
Okay, wait. I just have to ask. That last monster, no Punk Seaman. What's the odds that gets censored in America? Or do you think they'll lean in?
They're going to rename it.
I think it will be renamed.
Yeah.
I think it will be renamed.
Yeah. Let's see. 2300 attack, 2600 defense. You contribute a Punk monster. Special summon this card from your hand. You can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard. Send a card from your hand to the graveyard. And if you do, special summon a Punk monster from your deck, except a level 8 monster. 3. Once per turn, when this card choice a monster in battle, gain life points equal to the original attack of that monster.
This is almost like the low-level main deck mutant monsters, but you can use it from hand. It's kind of interesting.
Oh yeah, and it being level 8 is very important. Also, if you notice, it's also the first monster we've read that isn't a tuner.
Right. Yes.
True.
Also, the
Hilarious. His name
Synchro's
is
11.
Foxy Toon.
Okay.
Yeah, the Synchro's 11. It's level 8 and then level 3.
Gotcha.
All right. Next card. Oh my god. Why do I get these? Ukiyo Punk Carp Rising.
Yeah,
Level
the Carp
8.
Rising.
Level 8 Water Fish Fusion Effect Monster. 1000 attack, 2600 defense. Materials is 2 Punk monsters. You can only activate the first and second effects of this card's name once per turn. You contribute this fusion summoned card. Special summon up to 2 Punk monsters with different names, except level 8 monsters from your hand or deck in defense position. Broken. Potentially. If this card is used as material for a synchro summon, you can target one punk monster you control. This turn, it can attack twice during each battle phase. So you can rip this guy out with the first guy, Ukio Sharkusai? I don't know. You can rip it. You can pull him out the extra deck, or potentially if they get a fusion spell, you can fuse into this guy using any two of your punk monsters. And then you tribute to summon 2 punk monsters, different names from your hand or deck.
That seems pretty good.
Awesome. I mean, it could be a great extender, but I just have to wonder if the payoff is there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, I mean, the synchro's coming up, so I guess I get to read this one.
Yeah.
Ukiyo-e Punk Amazing Dragon. Okay, this had better be good if they're calling it Amazing Dragon. Level
For
11
real.
Wind Sea Serpent. That's... Ooh, Sea Serpent. I'm in. Okay. Sea Serpent Synchro Effect Monster. Attack 3,000, defense 2,800. 1 tuner, 1 non-tuner. So you use the level 8 and any of the level 3s. Or other support cards, depending on how they enable this. So each effect card once return. If this card is synchro summoned, you can target a number of cards your opponent controls up to the number of level 3 psychic monsters with different names in your field and graveyard. Return them to the hand. That's really good, but only going second, I guess. And then 2, you can target a
Super Compulse.
You can target a punk monster in your graveyard, except for Ukiyo Punk Amazing Dragon, and special summon it. This card
Pretty good.
seems pretty strong. I mean, like, you have to, like, be in a situation where you can actually summon this going second and have it resolve, but, like, the fact that it's an enabler going first and a insane board-breaking effect going second, this seems like a payoff worth, like, actually thinking about building a deck around. This is really cool.
Oh, yeah. But
Yeah,
also
it's
keep in
cool.
mind that his effect doesn't state punk monsters. It's just level 3 psychic monsters with different names.
Oh.
So psychic wielder
Yes.
and that other psychic
Tracker.
Yeah, these are
psychic tracker.
these are like real legitimate extenders in the deck.
All right,
Yep.
next up we have the first continuous spell card, Gagaku Punk Wild Picking. Continuous spell card, like I said, it can only use its first effect once per turn. At the start of the damage step, if your punk monster is battling an opponent's monster, destroy that opponent's monster. 2. If this card in its owner's spell and trap zone is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can activate this effect. For the rest of this turn, punk monsters you currently control cannot be destroyed by battle.
Ugh.
It's not great, but it's interesting, because it turns your punk monsters into outs for any card that can't be targeted for card effects, because it doesn't target.
True. You have to make it to the battle phase, though. This feels like a War Rock card,
You have to-
but if it works in the deck, then I'm interested.
Yeah. Let's see. You got the next card?
Yeah. I should stop getting sidetracked while we record.
Yes.
So Gagaku Punk Crusher Beat. Continuous spell card. You can use the first effect of this card's name once per turn, which I guess the second effect is not once per turn. Lovely. If your opponent activates a card or a card effect that targets a punk monster in your possession, wording is important. That's not the same as you control. You can target one card your opponent controls, destroy it, and that's the once per turn. If this card is in its owner's spell and trap zone is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can activate this effect. For the rest of this turn, punk monsters you currently control cannot be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. That's alright.
It means targeting effects for removal don't really do that much against this deck, it seems. So that's cool.
Oh, yeah. Especially back row hate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it dies to one Shiragi boy.
That's true.
Oh, just wait until you read the trap cards.
All right. That was the first trap card, wasn't it? Oh, no, there's one other one here. Okay.
Yep.
So that's the other one. All right, so we've got Joruri Punk Dangerous Gabu. You can only activate a card with this card's name only once per turn, and it's a normal trap. 1. Target one effect monster your opponent controls. Negate its effects for the rest of the turn. Then, if you control a punk monster, gain life point. It's equal to the targeted monster's original attack. Oh, so searchable imperm. All right. Okay. We're talking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, searchable by the Madame Spider.
All right. Okay. That's actually kind of sick.
Oh, yeah. Next is...
Wait. I have to ask. Is Fogblade literally just better, though?
I mean, Fogblade...
Yes and no.
I guess you do have to like. I mean, probably.
Is imperm literally just better?
Imperm is not searchable, but Fogblade is probably better.
Okay, I think the counterpoint is that now that I think about it, the gain life points is actually really relevant in this particular deck.
Oh yeah, because you're sitting there constantly spending life points to activate these effects. Which there's a card I will bring up in a minute after I read the second trap, Jaruri Punk Nashawari Surprise, normal trap card.
We are butchering these words.
Yes, we are. You can activate a card with this card's name only once per turn. Target one face down card your opponent controls, or if you control a punk monster, you can target one face up card your opponent controls. Destroy it. Yeah, this, like, the card I was going to bring up is an old field spell. Brain Research Lab.
Oh, yes.
Once per turn, you can normal summon one psychic type monster in addition to your normal summoner set. If successful, place a psychic counter on this card. You can also place a psychic counter on this card instead of paying life points to activate any psychic type monster's effect that you control. However, when this card is removed from the field, you take 1,000 damage for each psychic counter on it, which is unfortunate. However, it's still, less life points you'll be paying with the main deck.
Just don't let it get to 8 counters.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Well, and also this deck, like this actually helps the deck a lot because it looks like the monsters don't really have an easy way to cheat themselves out. But if you can normal summon 2 of them, that seems pretty sweet.
Kind of fixes the issue.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's some cool stuff here, but it's not crazy.
Okay. That being said, I did show it to another friend of mine, and she said that she really likes the aesthetic that the card art has going on.
I do like these, yeah.
It's very colorful, very neon purple and orange and teals.
Yeah, it is fun.
Reminds me a lot of
that's about it for
Abyss Actors, almost, like design-wise.
It does, actually, now that you mention it.
I've never looked at the Abyss Actors designs once in my entire Yu-Gi-Oh! Career.
You should check them out. There's some cool stuff in there.
Oh, yeah, they're pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it came out in that gap when I wasn't playing.
Yeah.
And, like, basically, if it's not meta relevant right now, I don't know what it did.
Don't need that. Don't use the bandwidth. It's
Exactly.
Yep.
Fair enough.
I'm with you there.
The next thing that I want to talk about is a card coming from Burst of Destiny. Is a normal trap card called Giant Starfall. Neither player can activate the effects of monsters without a level in response to this card's activation. Effect: target one face-up monster on the field without a level. Until the end of this turn, change its attack to 0. It cannot activate its effect. It cannot destroy a battle. Also, any damage either player takes from battles involving it is halved. And there's no once per turn anywhere on this card, I am just now realizing. I don't know if that makes it good, but it makes it better.
Makes it interesting, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were saying before we were recording.
It was.
This seems like. Oh, I was going to say, it is like a gimmicky card, but it seems like they're starting to play around with interesting restrictions on stuff. Like Underworld Goddess came out and was like, this card is unaffected by cards unless they target. And this one is like, you can't activate the effects in response to this if they don't have a level. So they're starting to play with the design space, and I think stuff like this existing makes deck building really cool. Because you can make a meta call with something like this, right? So it's not, I don't think this is great, but I like that it exists.
I think that the reason that they can do that now is because of the fact that we generally, every time there's a Master Rule update, every 4-ish years, we get a new game mechanic. At first it was synchros, then it was Xyz, then it was pendulums, then it was links, and then like 3 years later we got Master Rule 5 and we didn't get an actual new mechanic. So rather than introduce new stuff to the game and make an already confusing game more confusing, I feel like they're taking the time to actually flesh out some things that are technically possible and just not ever done. You know,
I could see that, yeah.
Playing around different card combinations. This card can do this card can do that. Just new stuff that, like this is an interaction that until now hasn't been fleshed out. Monsters that do have levels versus monsters that don't have levels. It's interesting.
Yeah, but then, that also opens up the possibility of future game mechanics where they make like a new monster card that doesn't have levels. This card will still affect it.
Yeah.
As opposed to a lot of the original Exceed cards specifically state Exceed monsters, when
Yeah.
they probably could have easily just said monsters without a level.
That's a really good point. I really like that.
Oh, yeah. And then last card we had to talk about.
Also from Burst of Destiny.
Ecclesia, the Virtuous in White.
Wait. Whose turn is it to read? Because we all want to read this card.
You hadn't.
Wait, I went last. It's Skyhawk's turn.
You were the one who didn't read it.
Why do you get all the cool cards?
I was saying,
What?
you're the one who hasn't read this, so maybe you should read this and react to it real time.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Oh yeah, I
yeah.
literally have not read this card yet. I do not know.
you
Real
do
quick
this.
though, whenever I looked at it earlier when it first came out, the friend who I showed the who really liked the aesthetics of the other cards were like, wait a minute, that's not what that says. When she was looking at Ecclesia White Maiden and Ecclesia Virtuous and White, she's like, that's not what that says, because it has the Japanese here. Shiro no Seijo is what she said it was, which is Ecclesia the Maiden, the White Saint, is a more proper translation.
Interesting.
Which is absolutely interesting. Anyway, take it away.
Oh boy. Okay. Level 4 Spellcaster Tuner. Okay, it's already good. Effect monster. Wow, that's interesting. 1500 attack, 1500 defense. It's not a Dogmatica card, which means Nadir does not search this, which thank God. You can only special summon by this card's first method once per turn. You can only use the second and third effects of this card's name once each turn. If your opponent controls more monsters than you do, you can special summon this card from your hand. Okay, so that's once per turn. You don't special summon this card's first method. That's worded weird, but okay. Number 2, during the main phase, quick effect, you contribute this card, special summon one Zhang monster or one Fallen of Albaz from your deck or hand. That's really good. During the end phase, if a fusion monster is sent to the graveyard this turn, you can add this card from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, so you can special summon this card if your opponent controls more monsters. So going second, it's turbo broken, and going first, it's still good because it's level 4 and you can normal summon it. So you summon it, activate effect, tribute this card as cost, and you can special summon either one of your Zhangzhangs or your Fallen of Albaz. So you can either go into your Fallen of Albaz line to go into your fusions, which will then, if you can get your fusion in your graveyard, will recycle. Or you can go into your Zhangzhang to go into synchro plays. The point is, in the lore, these are all about extra deck summoning to counter the Dogmaticas, which are against extra deck summoning. So it makes sense that this does a bunch of different kinds of extra deck summoning mechanics.
Oh, yeah.
It really does make sense that this supports several. And
Oh, yeah.
that's all my thoughts on this card, is that it's turbo broken.
I guess the one point to make before we move on from the card reveals is that this fixes a lot of the problems with Fallen of Albaz as a Super Poly-esque card. Because ending on this just basically means you're ending on Super Poly monster removal. Because Fallen of Albaz can be using like your opponent's monsters, right? So it's actually a disruption on top of being a combo enabler. So this is kind of nuts.
I like this card. I mean, it's not just, I don't just like it because it's turbo broken. I like the design aspect of it. I like what they did to make the card good and to link up. Am I saying that right? You said you took some Japanese. Is that Zhangzhang?
That's not Japanese.
Yeah, that's
God.
that's it's either Cantonese or Mandarin. I don't know which.
Oh man, now I am ignorant. Oh wow, I feel bad now. Okay, so the point is, I like the design aspects of this card. I don't know. I like this card. It's good.
Oh yeah. I know, it's definitely going to be real interesting once it comes out.
Yeah. That said, this is yet another like broken Burst of Destiny card. Are we thinking that Burst of Destiny is going to be like okay? So that's our last card reveal. So let's talk about a minute about Burst of Destiny. Do we think that set is just going to be like every card in it's a blowout?
I mean, so far, it's just been, just solid card after solid card after it's all right, and then another really solid card.
Yeah, I mean, entire archetypes of playable cards.
Haven't seen that in a hot minute.
Flunderies. Yeah, no, I mean, this is honestly reminiscent of Duelist Alliance. I'm not going to say it's the next Duelist Alliance. I'm not going to...
You're not going to get clickbaited.
This is the next Duelist Alliance, folks. This is the episode title right here, Caleb. No, but realistically, you're talking about Flunderies as well as the Zhangzhangs are not just playable, they're really, really potentially like tier 1 broken good. And that's not even to think about, these decks are not just going to get a single wave of support. These decks are going to get another wave of support in the set after Burst of Destiny, which is
something of chaos.
Chaos or Battle of
War of Chaos, something of chaos. We talked about it on the show before.
Right. So the point is, this is going to lead into another set, and we all know every set with chaos in its name is a high impact set. So I mean, we could realistically see a world where the Zhangzhang get support, the Flunderies get support, you get the Branded, and they get support. All of these cards could legitimately be high level come Burst of Destiny. And these aren't, like I said, these aren't just playable. These are high level competitive archetypes. I feel like they saved all of this for when competitive play opened back up. That's really what it feels like.
I've heard some people say that. I think I actually agree. I was skeptical, but I actually think that makes a lot of sense. Because this is releasing like October-ish, isn't it, for us? Where
OCG.
Oh yeah, so maybe like a smidge later for us, but that's like that'll be when like things open up a bit more.
No. That sounds about right, because we're getting Dawn of Majesty soon, and this is the set after Dawn of Majesty.
Yeah. So I think it's October-ish.
October to November
announced, but this is also cool because there's a lot of the way that they're designing sets lately. There's like some elements of Lightning Vortex in here too, because there's individual cards that are really good for different archetypes, right? And also there's fan favorite stuff. Like they gave Penguin Brave. They gave some of the monsters on Penguin Brave out here. So
all of them.
Yeah, I think that
not all of them. There's two.
Yeah, there's two that they haven't made yet. There's two that are missing.
Oh really?
Yeah.
It's spellcast. It's a Penguin Spellcaster and Penguin Martial Artist.
Yeah. But the point is,
so Priest and Ninja don't count.
I think this is going to be a really.
What?
Oh.
Penguin Priest and Penguin Ninja.
No, they count.
Okay, so that's a spellcaster and a warrior guy.
Oh, no. The two in the back that don't have cards are canonically called,
Oh.
Penguin Spellcaster and Penguin Martial Artist.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lore thing.
Okay.
Anyway, I think the point is that this is going to be a really good set because it has like those meta-defining archetypes. It has those individual good support cards, kind of like Lightning Vortex did with like Scrap Raptor and Bear Broom and a couple of others, and it has fan favorite stuff.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'm excited.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. I think they were just kind of holding all the best stuff for this.
Yeah. Okay, so that's going to wrap us up for the main bulk of our new information that we're getting.
Hey everyone, it's Caleb, also known as Jam the Man, here with our sponsor, Anchor. Anchor makes making a podcast incredibly easy. It has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, then distribute your podcast for you so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many, many more. They even let you make money from your podcast right from the very start. Everything you need to make your own podcast. The best part? It's free. So go and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm and get started today. And now, back to the podcast.
What we want to move on into now is more of an actual interview with Skyhawk. We have some interesting questions for you, and we would really like to hear some of your opinions on certain things in the game that we see today and how your experiences have impacted the way that you approach the game. But the first thing to ask is, who are you? Tell us a bit about yourself, your experience in the game, and how you came to play the game, and ultimately the decks that you're playing.
For sure. So I guess I said it at the beginning, but you might have seen my name as Isaac from Invitational stuff. But online I go by GiantSkyHawk. You may have seen me around online. I've played in a lot of MBT's Chalice Summit Series tournaments. I won the very first one back when it was called the Quarantine Series. And I have, I think, a second place and like 3 top 4s.
So you dominate this thing.
But I wouldn't say I'm one of many who do well at those events. I would say myself, Rycape, Space Dandy 1993, and Sampai, and Mount Fuji are probably the most storied. But I won the first one by activating double or nothing into an abyss scale of the Mizuchi, and I still won that game. But regardless, so you might have seen me there. I have a couple of deck profiles from some recent event successes that kind of blew up on his channel. So those are probably the places you've mostly seen me, or maybe just randomly on Twitter. I guess I started playing the game because I really liked manga and cartoons and stuff, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Was a thing. And on a trip to, I'd randomly get packs with allowance and stuff. And then on a trip to the US, I had some spending money, and I found the old, not Dino Smasher's Fury, the old Dinosaur's Rage structure deck. And I had that, and I loved it. And so I loved the dinosaurs. It was all I could think about for quite a while. And so I randomly just online I found Dueling Network back when that was a thing. This was like right after the Dragon Rollers had been banned that I was on there, and I remember I had put together, this is like I wonder if I still have a screenshot of the list, like a 53 card just mishmash of cards from that structure deck, and then somebody PM'd me because they just randomly saw me in Rated and was like, hey, I see you're playing dinosaurs, you should try this. And it was a Dino Rabbit list with 1 rabbit, playing like 3 copies of Shrink, 3 Forbidden Lands, 3 Forbidden Dress, and like Drak Guaibas, Drak Velos, Hydrageddons, and then just a bunch of utility trap cards like Hyper Hammerhead. And I was like, oh wow, this looks really cool. So I tried it, and then I started getting into actually playing the game. And I was never really that good. I was really bad, seeing as I kept main decking Shrink until 2018. But
That's funny.
Yeah, so I was really bad for a really long time. Just doing that stuff just because I loved it. And I was in and out of the game. I think I stopped playing for a while when Necros was a thing. I stopped playing when Full Power Zoo was a thing. My least favorite thing are Tier 0 or really highly concentrated Tier 1 formats. So I would always come in and out. And then later, in university and stuff, I found a place online just randomly. I found MBT and when he was really small. And then I found Trinity format. And that's actually what got me back into competitive play was building decks in Trinity.
Okay.
For those who aren't aware, Trinity format is an alternate. Yeah, so Trinity format is a really cool. It's still running too, which is nice. It's a really cool online kind of deck building alternate rule set format. The basic premise is that it's a Highlander format where the minimum deck size is 30. So you have to play what Highlander is, for those who don't know, you have to play 1 of each card. You can't play multiples. But in Trinity, you can play multiples if you increase your deck size by 5. So for example, if I have a 30 card deck with 1 Overraptor, I can go to 35 cards to play 2 Overraptor, or I can go to 40 cards to play 3 Overraptor. And so you get to make some interesting consistency and deck building choices based on that. But the other thing is that it's an alternate rule set that focuses more on a resource-based gameplay, where you can only normal or special summon effect monsters 3 times per turn. So it creates a 5Ds era Yu-Gi-Oh experience, but with modern tools and with a crazy deck building twist. And that was so addicting for me because it was a transition for me, right? Because I got to play with, because I had to expand the card pool because you can only play individual cards of each. You can't play playsets of the best cards. I got to play with some of these older tools that I was used to using, but I got exposed to some of the higher order thinking in terms of deck building and strategy and metagaming and everything else. And so I was playing Dinosaur in that. There were some really cool decks we made. Giant Ballpark Dino was tier 1 for a long time. There were some broken interactions with Lost World because it could abuse normal monsters. I got Lost World banned actually.
Well, and realistically though, if I remember this correctly, you can You can normal or special summon affect monsters 3 times per turn, but there's no limitations on normal monsters.
No, there's no limitations normal monsters. So I was abusing like Pacifist the Phantasm City. Like for after Lost World was banned, I was playing Pacifist Dinosaur. And I was literally main decking 3 Kabazals. Because you can also play multiples of effect monsters for no extra cost. So in a 30 card deck you could play a playset of a normal monster. So I would basically just do anything I could to make a dino playable. And then Misk came to 3 in the TCG. And I was like, oh, well, I could play dino in TCG now? And then, like, for the longest time online, I have been known as the dino guy. And so I kind of grinded out for a while. Like, I had, like, and I started, like, doing well in the Chalice Slam tournaments, but I was kind of a nobody for a while. I was doing really well at, like, in, like, my local scene, but up here in Edmonton, that's also nowhere. So, and I went to YCS Niagara. I didn't make day 2. I got to the last round and I drew. I went like 4-2-2, playing a blind second dino list with extravagance, playing 2 copies of Utopia and 2 copies of Utopia double. Because the idea was that Overraptor Lost World was Utopia double Pentastack for 9,000 damage. And so that was the gimmick. And then I shifted to doing like Paleo Dino stuff in TOS format. And I was that was when I was starting to see like I was doing well on the DB ladder. I was getting a lot better. And then flash forward to a couple months ago, I was playing Dragoon Dinosaur. I happened to qualify for the RDIQ. And then I happened to get top 8 at that. And I had to leave that match for work. But I still made the Invitational.
Hey, that's the important thing here.
And then, yeah, and just recently I picked up Fluffal. And that's been super rewarding for me. So I haven't even touched Dino in a little bit, but I'll be back. Sorry, that was a bit long-winded, but that's kind of my history in the game, and that's
no, that's okay. I really, it's so funny to me that the thing you just happenstance touched on at the very end is the thing that you're probably most well known for at this point. You've been making a lot of noise with Fluffals.
Yep, deservedly so. This deck is really good, and nobody is playing
because it's the most big brain deck in the format.
You could say it's not a deck you want to toy around with.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you laughed a lot more than we did, buddy.
You put a coin in the pun machine, and it vended you the right one.
Oh shit!
I try.
So, with that, there's a bunch of questions about Fluffal that we had, like a bunch.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. There are a lot of questions.
Okay, so the first off is, what brought about Fluffal as the list where you're like, yeah, this is the deck. This deck's turbo broken. What brought that about?
Okay, yeah. So I have a friend that I've done combo labbing for Dino stuff in the previous from Australia. He really is a combo genius. He is like just his name is Outback YGO. He's from Australia.
Okay,
and he messages me one day, like 4 days before one of the Chalice Slam monthly tournaments, and he's like, "Hey, Skyhawk, have you read the Fluffal cards?" I was like, "No. What are you talking about? Who's read the Fluffal cards? Nobody plays Fluffal." And he was like, "You need to read the Fluffal cards, Skyhawk. You've got to read them." I was like, "Okay, Outback." Because usually when he brings me something, like half of the time, it's this galaxy brain insane thing, and then we like lab it out and we figure out if it's actually good or not, right? He's helped out with some of the bigger brain dino combos in the past. That both him and I, we like to joke that we complement each other because we read parts of the cards that each other miss. So we eventually like move together to have a good understanding of what they do. But I started reading the cards and I was like, wait, the Fluffal Penguin is Solid Soldier and Liquid Soldier in one card. It's literally Overraptor. You can summon Toad before Nibiru, like almost every hand that you open. Yep. A whole bunch of these card effects are either soft once per turn or not once per turn at all. The whole deck searches each other. Fluffal Dolphin is literally engaged on like on an astral plane of existence. And it's like if you resolve it properly, it's like a +3. Fluffal Sheep is like the most deceptively busted card I have ever read in my life.
And you only run one because everything else in the deck is better.
And you only... Yes, exactly. So it's like I kept reading this. I was like, Outback, why is nobody playing this? And he was like, because no one can.
He's right.
And that's when I realized why. That's why he realized. That's when I realized why he messaged me. He was like, he basically said, I think you can play this.
Yeah, I think there's a very short list.
And I was
that
like,
can actually do
you're putting you're putting a lot of faith in me. Like the only guy, there was one dude in France that topped one of the remote duel extravaganzas in like February, and there's a guy, David Vasquez, who's gotten like top 16s and top 8s at a couple regionals like 3 years ago. But like outside of that, and there's one excellent friend of mine, Mr. Ease, who was also instrumental in getting me on this, who's been like grinding the chalice line like all the time. He has one top and he has bubbled like 4 of them. He's gotten like 9th and 17th like 4 or 5 different times. Ooh. It's really depressing. He is like the absolute king of bubbling on Fluffle. And he builds really cool stuff too. He's got his own theory about this. But nobody had like come up with a payoff. And so me, like reading the cards, I pull up Fright for Tiger. And for those who don't know what Fright for Tiger does, Fright for Tiger reads, you use Edge Imp Sabers plus 1 or more Fluffle monsters, and when this card is fusion summoned, you can target cards on the field up to the number of fusion materials used for its fusion summon and destroy them. I was like, wait. How can we abuse this? And like Fright for Fusion is one way you can do it, but like you have to go second to use that. I was like, how can we do this one first? And I was just like thinking about like fusion support just in general, and I was like, wait a sec. What if we play Necro Fusion and summon Tiger on our opponent's turn to just like blow them out? Just like banish like 5 cards as soon as they've committed to the board and just completely destroy them.
Who needs Nibiru when you can do just their
goes,
field?
Exactly. But the thing is, Tiger can target cards anywhere. It can target your own cards and destroy them.
So what's the payoff
then
for
we got to
destroying
thinking
your own
about
card?
like Artifact Scythe.
Nice.
And you can set that from deck with Dogda. But Outback was like, okay, it's really good, but we can't like search it. And then Outback said, wait, I have an idea. I will take pity on you, Skyhawk, as the combo master. And he found that Fright for Meister, which is a pendulum card that came out in 2 Chaos that like almost no Fluffle lists have been playing. And this card is like just deceptively disgusting.
It is.
There's so many cool things you can do with it.
I did not play this in my Fluffle list until I saw you play it and you explained why you play it. It's actually really good.
Yeah, it is really, really cool. So its pendulum effect is you can tribute a Fluffle, Edge Imp, or Fright for Monster from level 1 to 4. And then special summon from your deck a Fiend type monster with the same level but a different name. You'll notice the lack of restriction on that effect.
Any Fiend.
You can use its effects. You could do any Fiend level 1 to 4, so long as you're tributing the same level on the field. So he found that you could summon Lilith, Lady of Lament, and then set Necrofusion from deck by tributing Edge Imp Sabers, which is accessible through like your entire engine. So we realized that this wasn't a joke. We kept doing test hands, and the thing is, at this time, the format, people were playing a lot of board breakers because it was like Dragon Link was a big thing, and like Invoke Dark Shadow was a big
Dark
thing.
Rulers, etc.
And yeah, so there were less hand traps. So we were like, wait, so this deck could do like a more minimal board building setup where we build card advantage, but also blow them out with a card that's like in Necrofusion that's like impossible to interact with board breakers. Sign us up. Because if they Dark Ruler, like the idea behind the deck is that your combo ends on Cross Sheep, totally awesome, and a 3 or 4 material Appaloosa with a set Necrofusion and a set Artifact Scythe.
Right.
So not only do they have to push through Toad Appo, but you can like regain card advantage by activating Necrofusion, blowing up their whole board, locking them. So like, say you banish like 4 Fluffles or whatever, like Edge Imp Sabers and even 3. You pop 3 of their cards once they commit to the board. Then you lock them out of the extra deck with the Artifact Scythe. And then, because you summoned to Cross Sheep Zone, Cross Sheep can summon back Fluffle Octopus, which on summon adds any Edge Imp or Fluffle card from your graveyard to your hand. And if you used Edge Imp Scythe as part of your combo, that's another pop fusion summon that also, if you use the Octopus as fusion material, puts Wings back in your graveyard for next turn to get more card advantage if you have vendor access. So we realized that, and on top of the fact that Toad just adds Penguin back to your hand, and Penguin is like arguably the best monster in the deck. So we realized that nobody was playing this, nobody knew how to play against it. The decks at the time weren't built around a trap card that you were searching to just completely blow out the whole game. And it was more Dark Ruler over Droplets because of how the format was at the time. So we realized that you could build this insane resource loop that was also an oppressive going first board, that was also a good going second deck.
Listen. I just listened to all of that, and you know that meme with the lady with all the math in front of her? That was me
Right.
the whole time, like, what on... Okay, so listen. I've dueled Fluffals once or twice.
Yeah, a handful of times against me.
Yeah. And the first time you played Meister, I'm like, why are you playing this? Then he did the, Lady Lament, set Necrofusion. I went, okay, sure. Started doing my stuff, very slowly, just staring at him, just...
What's it gonna do?
What's he gonna do? There's gotta be some payoff. And he flipped the Necrofusion, made the Tiger, and went, oh. Oh no. Those are my exact words. Oh no.
Oh no.
In that exact tone.
I'm in danger.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so cool. I've always wanted to play Necrofusion in something. And like previously, like the best thing you could do with it was like summon a second Dragoon. Because you could like Red Eyes Fusion, put the materials in the graveyard, and set Necro, and then Necro could make another Dragoon. But it's like, that's so boring.
I've used
sucks,
it once
but-
to remake Winda.
But yeah, that's true. Yeah. Oh, you can do that too. Yeah.
So
but
I think the real question here is, I'm not trying not to cut you off, but just
oh, you're good.
the
You're good.
movement from here is the combos can be broken and the deck can be crazy. But what is it if it doesn't translate to actual real tournament success? Which brings me to my next question is,
Yeah.
you have piloted this deck at high level tournaments. What were your results? What tournaments, what were results?
So I've done quite well, and I think I like with a couple of different things going my way, I could have done a lot better. So I have a top 4 at a like 128ish person Chalice Line monthly, which was like 7 rounds of Swiss and then top
Right.
16. I took this to the Remote Duel Invitational, and I got 9th. I went 2-2, and the thing is, like my game 1, I lost my first match. I lost game 1 on a 0.47% chance to not see a Fluffle name post Phantasme.
Wow.
And then I got, yeah. So in terms of like that specific like 4-round event, I went 2-2. Both of the like and I played against Octavio in round 3. I wiped the floor with him, and he got second at the last one. Like Triberg, like the games where I wasn't hitting the outlier stuff, I was annihilating. Dinosaur, where the only reason I lost that game 3 was because he had the Imperial Order for my Forbidden Droplets in game 3. And I still had a chance to play because I battled through, and I just needed like a Dugaris and Toy Vendors to hit, and it didn't happen for me. I took it to the invitation, like to that invitational, because I thought it was good, because I thought it would give me the best chance to win. It wasn't like me trying to just like put a joke out there or something. Yeah. So, and then this was like actually slightly before the invitational. There was another another extravaganza, and I went again like just a brutal last round. I went 5-2-1, and the last round there was a really crappy situation involving time. And literally they called the judge because my opponent accused me of stacking.
Oh, jeez.
I think because they were just like surprised that Fluffle was good. To be perfectly frank with you, and it meant that I had to play a lot slower, and it kind of screwed things up because Fluffle combos can take quite a long time. But again, like I got like at that extravaganza, I got like 35th with like a little bit more time on the clock. And maybe a bit more improved play from me. That's an easy top 16.
Yeah, because like honestly,
with this
say
Fluffle
improved
deck.
play from you, but honestly, like it sounds like everybody could say, "Oh, I just had to play better." But like with Fluffle, it's not a matter of improving your play because maybe you misplayed a little bit here and there, but like it's like a lot of people say Drytron's a big brain deck. Fluffle really is very, very difficult to pilot.
Yeah, and this isn't even me trying to gas myself up. When I was learning this, I screwed stuff up all the time. Like the first Chalice Line monthly I took this to, I tanked it. Like there were flashes of it, and I was like, okay, I need to like get this down. I need to learn this. but it was terrible because there was just stuff that I didn't realize. Like, for example, interactions like Meister in a pinch actually being Edge Imp Chain access, because it can summon Edge Imp Chain from deck by tributing level 4 Fluffle, and that's an alternate way to get to Patchwork if you don't have access to your fusion plays. Or interactions with Sheep, where you would use Sheep to summon back the Edge Imp Sabers to tribute for Meister, so that you didn't have to put a card back on top of your deck. Or like theory stuff, like you should always blind fire Vendor if you have dead cards in hand.
Oh, true.
And that's a philosophy thing that I didn't get until I had started playing the deck a lot more. So a lot of it was like personal improvement for me. And then like it culminated in this YCS where I think this might be the best showing for Fluffle ever at a YCS. I went 8-3. And if it weren't for a really unfortunate, my opponent lying to a judge in the last round, it would have been 9-2 and it would have been a YCS top. Yep.
Yeah,
it was
I hate
pretty
to
bad.
hear it.
Yeah, but I'm super proud of that result, because I think I think even though I might be an outlier of a pilot, I think this really has legs. And my whole goal, like I'm hoping I'm going to put out a video on this on how this deck and how to play it a bit more sometime soon when I have time to record. But I genuinely think this is a meta force if people start picking this up. And while it is difficult, I don't think it's impossible to learn. So my goal in making like the Necrofusion Discord and getting MVT, like having him, asking him and having him do the video on the deck and trying to put stuff out there, it's because I want people to play this. I want this to be good. That's kind of my modus operandi here.
All right. And it certainly sounds like you've come a long way with the deck since you first picked it up. And I like to put that up to a quote by John DiMaggio. The first step into being really good at something is being really bad at it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. The best way to learn this deck is to sit in Edo Pro and just brute force a whole bunch of hands. Like, you haven't lived with Fluffle until you've Tiger to pop your own toy vendor to get to Dolphin to try to dig for more cards to do your combo. You haven't lived until you've searched Repair with Chain for that exact scenario instead of getting Fright for Fusion as follow-up to use the on-field effect of Repair instead of sending it with Whale.
Oh my gosh.
You haven't lived until you've used Octopus to add back a Penguin from Grave to do Penguin Dolphin into Toad before you do stuff. You haven't lived until you've used like Golden Lord to send a set Poly to OTK and like seeing that line, that's the better play instead of fusion summoning. Like, you haven't lived until you've kept Dogda on the field because you drew Scythe and then you sent it to the graveyard. You haven't lived in Fluffle until your opponent activates Cosmic Cyclone on your set Artifact Scythe, but you still resolve the Artifact Scythe post that because you set Necrofusion and you ended on Dogda. You Tiger summon to Cross Sheep Zone to clear their board, and then you summon back Octopus, and then Octopus to add back Edge Imp Scythe. You take Edge Imp Scythe and fuse it with Octopus to summon Cruel Whale. Chainlink 1 Octopus, targeting the Artifact Scythe to put it back in your graveyard. Chainlink 2 Whale, pop an opponent's card in your own Dogda, and then Dogda effect to summon back the Scythe to still resolve it.
That's insane.
Like, the interactions that are possible in this are like near infinite, especially because with Penguin not being hard once per turn, bringing it back off of Cross Sheep and having extra searches off of like toy vendors that you draw and change, knowing when to get Sheep and when to like prioritize Octopus to get back an Edge Imp Scythe from graveyard, especially if you're not playing Necrofusion, which right now I'm not. Like the level of this isn't even me gassing myself up. And I think actually over the YCS weekend, I think I had pretty near perfect technical play. I can't think of any major or consequential mistakes that I made. Both of my one of my losses was literally just somebody drew Called by the Grave twice. And I was like, yeah, okay.
Rip.
But that was Invoke Dogmatic Shadow, and Called by the Grave was the only card to get him out. So that was kind of sad. But I think this becoming a meta force rather than just a strong rare option would be difficult, just because like you have to know a lot of these things in order to get an edge on a meta deck that has more room to make mistakes.
So the next question is, what what are some of the technical issues with the deck that you had to overcome to make it good, essentially?
Ratios. Ratios in this deck are really hard, and we had to work a lot and do a lot of thinking to get to a place where we were happy with them. The debate between 2 and 3 poly has raged on for years.
Honestly.
Yeah. You know this well. You've been a Fluffal pilot. The debate on like the number of dolphin between 1 and 2. The debate on the number of sabers, whether to play Gamma or not. The extra deck is a whole other debate in and of itself. You can play like there are 40 different playable cards, and you have to pick 15.
There's more than 40.
Probably. Like 40 was just like what we came up with, but there's probably more. Like you could get like maybe on the gimmickier side of things, you could play Herald of Mirage Lights in this as a spell trap negate.
Herald of Mirage Lights? Really?
Because the Fluffals are all fairies. Yeah, no, because they're all fairies. The main deck Fluffals are all fairies. So you can end on Herald of Mirage Lights really easy as a spell trap negate.
You could tech in, hilariously, because they're all fairies, you can tech in a Fluffal engine into a Drytron deck. You can tech in a 3 bear, 3 toy vendor, and 1 to 2 copies of Wings as a pure drawing and advantage engine, and end with fairies in hand to use as negates for ultimateness.
I mean...
And Wings is searchable through Eva because it's a light fairy that's level 1.
I mean, since they're all fairies, couldn't you also play Herald of Orange Light?
Yes, similar to Madolche. You can just play Herald of Orange Light. In the extra deck, you can play stuff like Proxy F Magician. There's an insane replay from the last Chalice Slime Monthly where Mr. Ease resolved the effect of Fright for Kraken to send a card. And he resolved it 3 times going second. Because he hard fused into it once. He made Sabertooth into Kraken, and then he linked into Proxy F Magician to fuse the Sabertooth and the Kraken into another Sabertooth to summon a Kraken. To clear a Mach in a board so that Citadel wouldn't trigger. It was beautiful. You can play Hope Harbinger because rank 8s are really easy to make. You can play like IP. IP is really cool because you could like IP Crush Heap and get the advantage off of your fusion summon on your opponent's turn, and then IP into an Appaloosa so it can't be destroyed by artifacts. Or like a Unicorn or something. You can play like Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord. You can play Draglubion if you really want. You can play different fusion packages. And like you could play any rank 4 in the game because this deck craps out rank 4s like no tomorrow.
Right. So
it's okay. Sorry, go ahead.
So what is it that makes it broken though? Is it just the versatility? Is it
the pure advantage?
Yeah, and like a follow-up question to this is, I say what makes it so broken. Is it actually broken, or do people just know what it does? Is it, is it better than a rogue deck? You know what I mean?
Yep. In my opinion, this is better than a rogue deck. I think if people were like seriously playing this, and there were more people like myself and the guy from France and David Vasquez and Mr. Ease and others like seriously playing this, I think it would be a meta represented deck. I think it would be like,
so you think that if it had the higher levels of representation, that it would have more results than it does? I
think this would convert. It can, you open a lot of hands that dodge interaction in really interesting ways. Like fusing Polymerization Penguin Chain into Whale is just such an insane thing to be doing, because you can chain block it in a way that you get exactly what you want, whether you want to get like another patchwork if you hard up on Poly, or to make sure your Penguin draws go through. The fact that Whale sends an extender. The deck can be built where your main deck is broken going first and going second. Like over the YCS, I did not go first a lot of game ones, even though this deck blinds first, and I still won almost every single one of those.
That's the crazy part about the deck is that, in my opinion, that might be the craziest part about the deck is if you go first, you can literally just build a board and basically make an unbreakable board with a multi-negate Appaloosa, a Scythe Lock, and Toad. And then if you go second, the deck in engine already is an amazing going second deck just inherently.
Yeah. And you want the take? The take that I've been discussing this with Outback a bit. The end board is better than Dragon Link had ever put up, and the recursion is better than anything that Dragon Link ever had. The only difference is that Dragon Link was a bit more consistent.
I mean,
I think this is on that level.
I mean, with Dragon Link, what recursion?
Oh, the recursion of
Yeah,
spheres.
yeah.
The recursion of tidying to summon back a chamber.
That's about all it's got.
The recursion that exists with like like and boot sector launch existing as like a return soul charge if your board gets broken and you don't die. But like this deck, you end on a full board of monsters and like 5 cards in your hand and a stacked graveyard, and then everything you draw off the top after that is gas. The fact that your Omni Negate in Totally Awesome gets you back and like an insane piece, either in Penguin or Dolphin or Octopus or Cruel
Turns
Whale
out
if you want to
Toad
put
has
that back
another
for
effect.
like to push for more pubs. Yeah, it's insane. And there's a funny interaction with Eldritch where because we play Golden Lord in this, if you use Toad on like a Conquistador, you can reasonably use it because you play Golden Lord in this. That's come
Golden
up a
Lord's
couple
really
times.
good in this deck.
But like, yes, I guess before Golden Lord, just the last thing about the board is that the end board itself is also resistant to every board breaker in the game. You can hold Edge Imp Scythe in your hand as long as you want. You like, if your opponent Dark Rulers you, it is still a pop and a Scythe lock. And if you get like dropleted, you can still hold that and then pop Scythe Lock, like as long as you need. You can protect your Appaloosa with Edge Imp Scythe, or if you need to Scythe Lock them early, like you can fire it off early, and do it as soon as they commit a card to the board, and then Whale can pop it. You can adjust the board to if that they're playing Dark Ruler, you just focus on Dweller, and then you try to set up like Dweller Edge Imp Scythe, and that is often enough to win the game against almost everything. Like Dweller. Yeah.
Actually, speaking of building boards, I have a really a question that's been kind of racking around my brain. Like, is there any hand traps that as soon as you see it, you're like, oh no, like, or is it just doesn't care, or?
It's like, I would say the biggest problem is Droll, but that's the really cool thing about this deck right now, is that main decking Droll isn't happening a lot, because the format is so wide open. There are like 25 different decks that you could play right now and see reasonable success with. If you're at a high level, like you could play crazy stuff like Earth Machine or Adding Nister and still do really well in an event. And there's like a concentrated meta, of course, because like Tri Brigade is obviously really strong. But none of the top level decks are unbeatable by any means. Had the judge gotten it right in my last round, I would have gone 3-0 against Drytron over the weekend.
Right.
I won my first, and I cleaned house the first 2 Drytron matches I played. So in terms of the actual like matchups this has against like hand traps, Droll is a problem, but it's not unwinnable. Gamma is a really good card, and we have access to it. And as well, there is set play through Droll. There are a lot of hands where if you play your first search out properly. So not only is Gamma really nice because you can do so much in this deck without committing to the normal summon, like they're so tempted to Droll you after Patchwork. And then you can just Gamma them, and it's so good. Because you just turn that Gamma driver right into Cross Sheep. That's fair.
Yeah.
The deck doesn't even really care that much about Nibiru, because again, most of the time, you can put Toad up as your 4th or 5th summon. It's not hard, and most hands do it. Ash only matters if your hand sucks. Oftentimes, like, the second hand trap can sometimes be wonky, but not only is, like... The problem is that even if, like, people start to, like, learn how to play against this matchup, it doesn't help them, because they have to be at the same level as the pilot to know when the right time to use the Ash Blossom is. I don't know what the right time to use the Ash Blossom is until I'm mid-combo. Right. Because there are so many different lines, it's kind of like how Hero was, actually, in, like, the brief period where Hero was very playable, in that, the right time to use an Ash on them totally changed based on their hand. So you had to know the deck as well as they did in order to play it. And for people to, like, in a format with, like, 25 decks, I'm very skeptical that, like that many people playing other things will get on that level of mastery. And even if you have that level of mastery, sometimes these Fluffle hands will just destroy you. Like, if you open Foolish Burial Goods, like, if you like a not unreasonable hand at all, like, any way to get Toy Vendor into the graveyard, either of Penguin or Dolphin and Patchwork, you're going to win that game. Almost instantly, because even through Droll, that's still, like, Toad plus Edge Imp Scythe. Or Dweller plus Edge Imp Scythe. And like, so even through like the most restrictive of hand traps, this deck is still very, very good.
That's interesting. So with that, I have to wonder, you said that the thing you had to work on the most was the deck building philosophy with this deck, which I think we talked about a little bit before the interview, in that a lot of your deck building philosophy comes from that Highlander format. So how does your deck building philosophy come from that Highlander format translate here to Fluffals?
Yeah. So for one, I think it means I am more willing to like look at the card pool. So for instance, I think a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players just haven't read the Fluffle cards because it's just kind of written off as like a gimmicky go second deck. And it's like, also it's like, there's a whole thing about it being like kind of cutesy or whatever, but that's a different conversation. I think they're extremely badass. But I was more willing to dig into the card pool to look at Necrofusion and to dig through, because I had to do that to succeed in Trinity format. I had to dig through the card pool to find playables, and to see interactions that don't come up very often, because it's stuff that doesn't happen in meta play. So for me, finding those like weird cards like Frightfurmeister or Necrofusion, or even just like playing Fluffle deck in general, and like experimenting when people say, hey, you should try Golden Lord, and seeing how that works, and like doing stuff that sounds kind of weird on the outset but turns out to be quite good, similar to like me playing Gillosaurus, right? That was a specific card that solved a specific problem with the list, and that's also what Frightfurmeister was. We dug through the card pool and we found a specific solution to the specific problem of not drawing Necrofusion. So the first thing was that Trinity format really helped me to get very good at digging through and finding those unique interactions to try to do like new things in the game. That's what kind of gets me going. But the other thing it helped me do was get a lot better at card evaluation, which sounds very silly for someone who spent a lot of time playing Survival's End in dinosaur lists. But when you have limited access to every card, you have to really think about how good that actual card is. And it's also made me a bit more free, which is kind of weird to say, but it's made me a lot more free in my deck building. Like, you'll see a lot of my lists that are like the Dragoon Dino lists. I've played everything from like 42 to 48 cards. I unironically played like 60 card Dino combo back when Linkross and Calamities were legal, because it was the better version of the deck at the time. I will stand by that. Shout out to Mechaphantabeast, Eros going to Mechaphantabeast Hamstrat, the real homies. But I'm more free with, it's made me more free with my deck building to, like, for example, like with Fluffle, I could play 40 to 42 and not have qualms about it. And because I know a lot of people, I know a lot of people at that high level can like really stress out about trying to keep something to 40, but I'm a bit more open about. I've been rambling about it for a bit, but I guess I'm just more open to possibility. It can get me in trouble sometimes, because sometimes I really want to make something work and I do a bit too much to make it happen. But when an engine that has not seen as much play in a specific way, and my particular view of the game kind of combine, I think beautiful stuff happens, and that's kind of where the Fluffle list came from.
That's awesome. So, just a couple more questions here.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question more of somebody, more of like a player-to-player question and some advice maybe you might be able to give. So, I see in a lot of the Fluffle lists, basically in your main deck opening, it feels like the entire deck is all gas. It's all engine pieces, right? So, generally, like some of the earlier lists, like played 0 hand traps. How do you, when you're siding, going second, like when you're siding into games 2 or game 3, going first or second doesn't matter. How do you decide what you're going to side out of in a deck where it's all combo pieces? It's all part of your engine, every card.
Actually, I get this a bit, and this is one of my favorite questions to answer. because I think, and again, like when I did well with the Dragoon Dino list, a lot of people didn't like that list. A lot of people were like, "What? Why did this win? Why are you main decking the Judgments? What? Why are you like playing? Why aren't you playing the hand traps? Because like that list, it was just like Gamma and like 2 Lancia or whatever." And my response is, when I build a deck like that, I am building it specifically to like maximize my chances of winning the game if I win the dice roll game 1. And then I can, because both of those decks are really, like Fluffal and Dinosaur, for example, are both already innately good at going second, I still have a reasonable chance, even if I don't win that dice roll without like hand traps or protection. And it means I can side into just a bomb going second deck. And so giving up that game 1 almost doesn't even matter, because game 2, I can side into an insane going first strategy that has a high chance to win. And then in that game 3, if I lose that game 1, I can side into just an insane blowout go second deck. So in terms of like those siding decisions, I was more comfortable playing no hand traps in that list, because I knew even if that game 1 didn't go well for me, I was siding into a ridiculous go second deck. And that's why I was able to like have the confidence in all the gas and to try that Necrofusion in the main deck, or even in the side deck, for example. So in terms of like specifically for the Fluffal list, what to side in and out, the way I think about it, matchups mostly, is for the Necrofusion deck, it was a lot easier, because you could just take out the traps and the Meister and the Lilith. And then you could like pick out individual pieces from there. So for example, going second, I often side out Sheep, but I don't side out Octopus. Most matchups. Because in general, I'd rather draw Twin Twisters than have to go like Dog Sheep into Phoenix to out back row. And so for me, Sheep is a card where drawing it doesn't really help me break a board. But something like Dog is excellent bait. And Penguin is chain blockable. And seeing my Polys is good. I'll often side out like one Fluffal Bear in a lot of matchups, just because seeing it in the opener doesn't do as much. Like, say I'm siding into something like Droplet, right? Or I'm maining Droplet for whatever reason, I keep that in. Seeing a Vendor or a Chain is way better than seeing a Bear, and I would rather see like my go second cards in the side more often than I would that second Bear. So usually I'll like be at 2 Bear. Occasionally I'll side out a Chain if I feel like the monster spam will be better, and then I'll keep the Sheep in. So it's like, it's very matchup dependent, but the best, and sometimes I'll even side out the Ash if I feel like I need more gas, or if Gamma is bad, or like if I don't want Gamma to conflict with Phantasme, for example. So like, I guess I don't have a good answer for your question. It is like super matchup dependent. I can say, I guess definitively, I will almost always side out of 1 Bear, and if Golden Lord isn't good in matchup, I'll side out of those. But after that, it's all just kind of in the moment, depending on what I've seen.
Okay, I understand.
Absolutely fascinating all this is, actually.
It really is.
Yeah, I do think it is. I mean, I think maybe this is a bit arrogant, but I do think it is like a slightly different approach to winning a 3-game match with some of these decks. Like, I mean, like the theory of like you play like a combo deck to win game 1 has always been around, but I think playing a deck that can go second way better than, like, for example, something like Dragon Link, making like that deck choice to fit with that philosophy, I think is maybe a bit different.
Yeah, I think.
And like, obviously, and building it to blind first too. Like Fluffal has not like VFD was a thing, but for the longest time it never blinded first. Dinosaur, like in its early stages, was a go first deck, but like after Denglong got banned and Misk went to 1, like almost everybody was playing it going second. And I was like, I want to play it going first. And with Fluffal, I was like, I want to blind first on this.
Yeah, I think that I said it previously. I think really the deck's pure advantage of being able to go first or second and build a reasonable board is just unparalleled. There's never been anything like it, which is why your innovations to build a strong going first board are just revolutionary for the deck in ways that cannot be expressed.
Yeah, it's the diversity of interaction too. I'm taking up a lot of space here, so I'll try not to dig into this too much. But Like the fact that you end on an Omni negate, some monster negates, potentially a graveyard lock, an extra deck lock, and a pop.
Oh, no,
like,
not a pop. Potentially
on its
upwards
face,
of 5 or 6 pops.
Well, yeah, if you're playing Necrofusion. Right now, I'm not on Necro. I'm using Edge Imp Scythe as the primary way to pop Artifact Scythe. And that's what I took to the YCS, is the not Necrofusion
Right.
build. But again, still, like, you have that option, right? To have that, like, incredible diversity of end board. And you can make your setups more minimal. Like, Dagda Necrofusion was often enough to win games. Just like Dweller Edge Imp Scythe often is enough to win games. So you can adjust to be more minimal and conserve resources, or you can go just absolute balls to the wall ham and just like combo like never before. But you can pick and choose what types of disruption you end on, and that's big because it means that you don't really have matchup problems because you can just adjust to the matchup and you don't have to like build your deck around it. It's just innate to the engine and the extra deck pieces you have access to that you can adjust yourself. So like I can prioritize a Dweller. Once I know that Dweller would be better against the matchup than an ED lock, for example. And then I can focus on like a Dweller, Toad, Appaloosa, and a Live Edge and Scythe like without having to go through the Dagda. And I can side out the Scythe as part of the combo and have the deck be a bit more full and not have that dead card to draw. So like having access to that different type of disruption is huge, and not a lot of decks can say that they have that right now. Virtual World, probably the main one that does right now.
Do you think that the deck list has changed because of meta progression? And if so, how does your deck list generally change throughout the progression of a meta? How do you make the decision to, well, you know, we need to cut the Necrofusion package now, things like that?
Necrofusion, I did actually think about this before we came on here. Something else I talked with Outback about. This is very much, Necrofusion was a meta call. Again, I think I mentioned it before, but at the time, people were on a lot of Dark Ruler, and we were like, okay, Fluffal can build a really cool board. Mr. Ease was ending on, like, Dweller, Toad, Appaloosa, Harbinger, which is ridiculous. But it's not that resistant, and your only recovery is that Toad add-back Penguin, right? And so we were like, we want to solve the recovery problem, and we want to solve the Dark Ruler problem. Necrofusion fixed that problem. Necrofusion was something that you could hold until your opponent committed too much to the board, because they would have to lead with the Dark Ruler to stop Toad Appaloosa, or the Droplets, or whichever, and then you still have this blowout that also locks them out of the extra deck. So that was in a more concentrated meta. But the Necrofusion build was limited in a sense because you had to dedicate a couple more main deck slots and a couple more extra deck pieces. Like, the Necrofusion build had to play a second Tiger, because there were a lot of hands where you would need to use Tiger as a combo piece. And you wanted another one to summon off Necrofusion. But you have a bit more extra deck freedom in the other one because you can take out that Tiger.
Right.
And you can take out a couple of generic links. That would like, for example, Barricade Borg Blocker was a lot more necessary in the Necrofusion build in order to enable Toy Vendor than in this updated list. Because there are just more options that you have room for. So in a meta that has like 5 different decks, and you know what it's good against, Necrofusion just blows them all out of the water. Like, if you resolve it, you just win. Because Tiger just screwed everything at that time. But in a wider metagame, with, like, again, like 20, 23, 25 different, like, real decks, you want to have as many options as you can. And so ending on a board that has all those options makes your blind game 1 so good, because you can just like see what the matchup is and then be like, okay, I will do this pop here and this negate here and this monster negate here, and I will lock them at the ED once they commit to this. And you can make those decisions for every single one of those decks rather than having to I feel like in this metagame I would have to fire Necrofusion a lot earlier than I would normally, and that makes its impact a lot worse.
Right.
Whereas before it was a lot easier to have like every deck have that exact point where you could be like, yep, I'm firing it now and you lose. Right. Having the options with this version of the deck is super invaluable in a format with this many decks.
Okay, that's all absolutely fascinating. Now, the format is, as you know, formats constantly changes throughout the particularly when new sets come out.
It's gonna move.
Yeah. So you seem so into this deck, so I have to imagine you're constantly thinking, okay, this is coming out, so I got to adjust for that and that. Do you have Like what are some of the ideas that you've had for new builds in the future?
If you can say.
If you want, if you even want to talk about it.
There's. I'm happy to talk about it. That's something that's maybe a bit different. I think I'm as public about innovation stuff as I can be. Like in the Dino Discord, anytime I come up with something, I almost never keep it under lock and key. Because again, my goal is to get more people playing this because I love it. I want more people on this.
It really is a fun deck to play. It really is.
It really is just amazing. It's a ton of fun, and once you get it, like I had people message me and be like, "Skyhawk, it's been a week. And I'm really struggling," and I'm just like, give it a few more days, and then they come back and they're like, "I finally understand." And that moment when that moment before the second Chalice Slam I took this in, where I was like, I finally understood how to do this. Like the world just opens up. It's so cool. But yeah, I mean, for the future, there's obviously, we have the option for Skyscorch Norlaras through Meister. So if there's a format where stuff in the graveyard does maybe a bit less for the top decks, we can just hand loop people. Searchable through Meister into Doomdog Octhros to link off to summon.
And not just like a normal hand loop, like guaranteed get the whole hand.
Yeah, it gets the whole hand. It sends their whole hand and field to the graveyard. It also sends yours, but you get to draw a card, plus off your own vendors, plus off your own toad, yada yada.
Right.
There's tuner combos. Like, in fact, the original build of this, we were doing like Auroradon combos to draw like 12 cards. Because like we were thinking, wait, we could draw cards with Penguin, we could draw cards with Wings, we can draw cards with Dugares, we could draw cards with like Old Entity Cthulhu. we were doing all sorts of weird stuff. So there's that. There are like I said, there's so many ED options. You can build this to play to fit to your style. If you like rank 8s, this deck can make rank 8s like nobody's business. If you like big link boards, or you like more minimal setups, or you like a more control setup, you could probably reasonably play a trappish oriented Fluffle deck that was focused more on the minimal engine and dug into some powerful searchable trap cards through Meister Lilith interactions. You can build it as just a bomb go second deck where you play super poly, droplets, hand traps out the wazoo, and then you just try to fright for fusion into OTK. In fact, Golden Lord Vendor, if you choose to play Verte Anaconda, is a 2-card OTK on an open board state. So I will leave you with that information to do with.
That is awesome. Speaking of leaving with information, we have run out of time.
Yep,
absolutely.
So
sorry for having the conversation.
No, it's fine.
No, this was an absolutely fascinating conversation that I am absolutely glad we had.
There's really not much that is more enthralling than hearing somebody get on a topic that they're passionate about and that they care a lot about and going all in on that topic. And I really think that your love for the deck is really evident. And I really can't express enough. I have played this deck. I have come to enjoy this deck. It is not a simple deck to play. It takes some time to get used to because as far as I think there's 3 major kinds of decks. I think there's combo, there's mid-range, and there's control. And then there's 2 other types. There's linear and there's non-linear. So every deck, similar to your chart of lawful good, lawful evil, things like that, you fall into either combo, control, or mid-range, and you fall into either linear or non-linear. So for this, it's really like a non-linear mid-range deck.
It feels like it. It's a non-linear mid-range deck that can play like a combo deck, but the resource loop makes it play mid-range-esque. It's really unique. It operates in a really unique space, and I really love it.
Yeah. The only issue is that because of that non-linear ability, it's
complicated.
Yeah, it's
it is draining. 11 rounds is tough.
Yeah, you're 100% going to have a decision
to
overload
be making
at the
those
end.
good decisions. Yeah.
So with that, we will leave you with the following information. If you want to play this deck, the best thing that you can do is join the Necro Fusion Discord server. It is the server that has been made specifically for the innovations made with this deck in the last year. All of the big brain plays and all the crazy stuff that's happened with the invitationals, extravaganzas, this has all happened within the last 6 months or less.
More like it's been like the last month and a half.
Right. So with that, if you want to learn about the innovations happening, don't be a truther in that Fluffle server. You need to be a truther in the Necrofusion server. They will listen to you there. They will support you. They will give you all the information that you need to play the best version of this deck. There will be a link to that server in the description of this episode if you're interested in joining. In addition to that, if you need more information, feel free to hit up Skyhawk anywhere you can hit him up. He is on Twitter a lot. He is on YouTube, and he is in basically every Discord server that ever existed.
Yeah. No, you can find me on Twitter at Skyhawk Sings. You can find me on YouTube at GiantSkyHawk. And you can find me in a bunch of Discord servers. My Discord username is GiantSkyHawk, hashtag 5725. I'm in the MBT Discord and the Necrofusion Discord a lot, and the Dino Discord. If you have any questions, and the Necrofusion Discord is maybe being a bit slow, feel free to message me directly. I would absolutely love to help people get on this, even if they just want to learn about it, even if they're not like sure that they want to pick it up. If they just want to like learn the matchup and stuff, I'm happy to talk about the ins and outs. So definitely reach out if you've got questions. And I thank you guys so much for having me on. This is a total
for sure.
Oh yeah, it was a great time having you on.
The only other thing to say is please make sure that you follow at Top Cut Podcast on Twitter for all the updates on when we post. Make sure to follow me at Dat Chumley, even though I mostly am on the Twitter, on the podcast account these days. Be sure to follow Caleb at JamTheMan17 for some hilarious tweets every now and then. Be sure to follow us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Give us a follow, give us a subscribe, whatever app you're using, use this to follow us and get the updates for when we post. Turn the notifications on. It is so helpful to, whenever we post, know that there's people that go and listen immediately. We've had episodes recently where within one day our view counts are jumping astronomically, and that's all thanks to you. That's all thanks to our listeners. We ask that you please leave us a rating and a review on the Apple Podcasts. We have one. We need more. The more ratings, the more reviews we have. It helps us out tremendously. It really works on that algorithm and helps us out a lot. If you have any feedback or criticisms, we ask that you please hit us up on Twitter, or you can email us, topcutYugiO@gmail.com. Anything to add, anybody?
Go follow these guys. They're doing something really good here and in a new space. So definitely come listen to the podcast and give these guys your support. They're doing something really cool.
I really appreciate that. I want you to know.
It's always great to hear that there's people that appreciate the effort that we put in, because I don't mean to put this out there for everybody, but it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. I worked a 12-hour shift right before recording. So it's we do this out of passion and love. We do this because we want this content to be out there, and we're really passionate about it, and that's all there is to it. So to know that there's people out there that enjoy this and get a lot from this means just the absolute world to us.
Oh yeah, I can't think of any other way to put it. That was a very sufficient way of putting it, my friend.
I have thought about it a lot. Well, that's all we got. Have a good night, everybody, or day.
Catch y'all later.
Take care, everybody.